Rising, welcome to today's show. You may remember that thing graphene I've talked about. You know, the black goo, graphene oxide. Many times over the last couple years, specifically since a certain something came out that people were willingly taking right into their veins. And a lot of videos have gotten strikes and been removed. I've tried to get a lot of them back up on other channels as well as this one, and I can't keep track at this point. But I wanted to put a piece together here. A subscriber who uploads great content on graphene, and somebody who's listened to the channel for a long time, who goes by the name Morg Void, tongue twister. I'm going to take some of the clips here. I want to show you some of the stuff going on with graphene and how people are finding it in food. You might say why and how and what. Well, they've been putting soft metals in our food for quite some time. They're spraying us from the sky with it, and now they're literally injecting that into people. This has to do with nanobots, of course. This is something I've talked about many times over. With the importance of them doing this, obviously this has to do with transhumanism. This has to do with manipulating and altering people's DNA. It's becoming very, very hard to avoid because it's being found in so many things. I covered how they were finding it in, people were having, literally, it was raining on their cars, this nonsense, which just shows you that they're spraying it in the skies. They were finding black dots on their cars and their windshields. People were using magnets and pulling it off. And literally the news would show up and they'd be like, we don't know what it is. We'll get back to you at 5 o'clock tonight. And then they would just never talk about it again, of course, because they just wanted people to be like, oh, what is this? Ooh, and then never give you an explanation of what it is. And then people like me try to give you an explanation of what it is. And of course, we get censored. So this is obviously nothing new. We know with chemtrailing and the aluminum and all the other crap that they're spraying from the skies. But graphene oxide obviously is appearing more and more everywhere, really. Tap water, to cereals, to other videos I've done covering like seltzer water and things like that. So I want to show you some of this stuff and how the food is magnetized. And it's pretty disturbing. I'm pretty sure that, it's time for everyone to start growing their own food, but it might be a little too late for some.
Good morning, guys. So I saw a video the other day of showing how the ink, the black on Nurofen tablets that we think is ink is actually graphene oxide. And I decided to do the test myself. Now, it confirmed it to me after 2 tablets in the water, but what I did was I put in a whole week's worth of Nurofen into a glass. Now I'm just gonna swirl it a little bit because there's quite a bit of tablet debris at the bottom, but what I want to show you is the graphene oxide in the tablets. Can you imagine? This is just a week's worth. If you've been taking Nurofen for a year, how much of this stuff is in your system? We really need to start looking at things. We need to start looking at things and not just trusting. So buy tablets that don't have that ink or the graphene oxide in it. But question everything.
Going to use an electrolyzer on tap water to make visible the total dissolvables in the water. So the tap water, we can also test with a TDS meter, and the reading we get on the TDS meter is quite high at 422, but we don't know what of that reading is bad and what is good in regards to minerals, etc. So the electrolyzer will enable us to get a better picture based on how the substance looks: dark, gunky, or clear. So let's check it out. So basically, we put the electrolyzer into the water before it's switched on, and obviously be very careful because you can electrocute yourself very badly. So you have your plus and your minus in the water, and just in case it's not touching the counter. So let's go. So already we have an idea that's not looking too good. So whatever bad stuff is in the water, there's plenty of it. Already we can see that from the dark. And then the darker it gets, the worse it is. So it's pretty bad. Okay, so we don't really need to go anymore as it starts to boil the water. So you can see all of this stuff now in the water. Doesn't look too good. Wouldn't fancy drinking this. We can also do a magnetic test. And we discover how magnetized this solution is, or these substances. Not for human consumption.
videos and they're saying, oh, that's so, it's doctored. It's not real. There's not really graphene in there. The magnet's doing this or I mean, what are they talking about? Right? They're like, oh, it was sticking. In some certain situations I can understand, I guess, right? If something's like a wet package, they're holding a magnet to it. I've seen ones with meat where it was like, maybe that wasn't really what was going on. But in these specific situations where you're, moving a magnet around cereal and literally the cornflakes are following the magnet, or, you're doing these tests in water. I mean, that's water. The guy's not shooting black goo into the water. Okay, these are things that are really occurring. This is what the silent war is. I've been talking about the silent war since my channel started, since way before I was on YouTube, to people who would listen to me talk, around me and places that I worked and things like that, that they've been doing this, a silent war. What better way to bring this about than a silent war, a war that people don't even see or comprehend? And then when you tell people about stuff like this, they don't want to hear it because they don't want to believe it. And they're like, well, what am I supposed to do? Not eat cereal? I got to get up. I got to eat something to go to work. If it's not in cereal, if it's in cereal, what's it not in? And then you say, I don't know. It's pretty much in everything. Then they go, then what's the point? I got to eat. I got to go. Bye. And they go about their day because the most important thing is going to their enslavement work, sitting there doing nothing that's really worthwhile, coming home and repeating the next day. Not having time to farm or do anything on their own to keep this stuff out of their body. And this is what they've created. It's a mental matrix where literally they're putting soft metals in people's foods. People are eating it. And I have a video.